Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, we take a breath, exhale right now. 12 fucking crazy games yesterday. News out the wazoos, news out my ear balls, news out my ear holes, and now we got a 6-game slate, so it's going to be a lot bit better today. Not as much injury news, but the exact same 10 schmacks that we're giving you right now. And let's start off with the number 10 play in the day, and that man's name is going to be Colby White. So Colby White today, the number 10 play on the day. There's still no Zach LaVine out there in Chicago. Colby White continues to start. Colby White continues to see big minutes. And Colby White also continues to see his price point stabilize and even drop $100 since that last game. Colby White has now played 30 or more minutes in 4 straight games after starting these games with no Zach LaVine. Since the trade deadline, Colby White is playing the second most minutes on the team with Zach LaVine off the court, and he is averaging about right now 0.9 fantasy points per minute. That is not bad. That is not bad by any means. I have Colby White at 28 minutes today, and I have him projecting out for just under 28 fantasy points. So Colby White, the number 10 play, numero 10 days ago. There's your Spanish for you, smack you around, the number 10 play on the day today. So, welcome in. Happy National Earth Day. Look, it's Earth Day. It's a fun day. Get outside and enjoy it. And I know what it means. It means save the planet, save all these things. And I'll be the first person to admit, I'm not the guy who probably goes out of my way to do that all that much. Do I recycle in my house? Yeah. But do I sometimes throw my plastics into the garbage? You're damn right that I sometimes do. Am I trying to kill the earth? No, I love this earth. I love getting outside in it. If the weather is nice by you, be sure to take advantage of it. Be sure, you're working from home. You're like, I'm so stressed. They'll see that I'm not by my computer. Like, think bigger picture here. They're going to fucking die one day. You're going to fucking die one day. So take your steps, take your body, take yourself, go outside, go for a walk for 10 to 5 to 15 to 20 minutes. And also, if your boss is such a hard ass that they don't let you go walk for 15 to 20 minutes, like a real person, not like you're a kindergartner. What, National Kindergarten Day yesterday, shout out them. But not like you're a kindergartner going outside for the first time experiencing the world. If you want to walk for 15 minutes, do it. And if your boss has something to say about it, tell him to fuck off. So happy National Earth Day today. Save the planet. Do what you got to do. Happy National Bring Your Child to Work Day. I ain't got no kids right now. Maybe I'll go try and find some kids. Pause. Can't be doing that. Happy National Bring Your Child to Work Day. Enjoy the day. Let's get into the rest of the top 10 plays on the day today. As we do, hit the like, hit the subscribe, do all those things for your boy. We will be live. We will be live at 5 p.m. East Coast time today. So if you're watching that, be sure to get involved. The number 9 play on the slate, it's just kind of a simple one. It's Luca Dante, who's actually starting to come on as of late. The minutes are stabilizing. He's actually averaging over 1.5 fantasy points per minute over these last couple of games. Luca Dante on the second night of a back-to-back. And you get the really powerful point guard / small forward eligible type of a player. I have Luca Dante today for 36 minutes of play and just over 56 fantasy points. So it's not like he's an elite play. And here's the thing about this slate. Early on, there's some value for sure. Don't get me wrong. But early on, there's not an overwhelming amount of value. And it's a smaller slate. So we're waiting on some, I would say, dominoes to fall potentially today. Some of those dominoes would be the questionable Jason Tatum, the questionable Terrence Ross, and all the questionable tags on the 76ers today. Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, all missed yesterday. So Luka Doncic at $11,000. He just looks okay. He just projects out for me today as I believe my highest projected player by about 2 points today over Giannis, which just makes him more of a priority for me. A 110 team implied total. Luka Doncic today at $11,000, projecting out for 56.03 points on Patreon right now down below. The number 8 play in the day today is going to be DeJounte Murray, who has a nicer team total, a 112 team implied total. I'm giving him 33 minutes of play because we've seen that stabilizing, and the price point has just basically been $7,000 or $71 or $7,200 for over the last couple of weeks, even though he's consistently getting you to 30 to 35 with the upside for these 40-plus point games in a really strong matchup today against Detroit. I currently have DeJounte Murray at 33 minutes and projecting him for 1.12 fantasy points per minute. It gives DeJounte Murray for me over a 20% usage rate, easily over a 20% assist percentage. I have him for 36.96 points. That makes him the number 7 play on the day for me. Check that. He is the number 8 play on the day. And as we get to the number 7 play on the day, I want to let you know about the sponsor of the program that makes this all happen, that allows me to turn on these lights. I only have 3 on right now, so your boy's not dealing with all 5. Make the background a little bit darker, make the colors pop, today. And let's make it pop. Let's make the colors pop with green for National Earth Day today. Your boy's going to be looking like a motherfucking lizard. But the sponsor of the program today is going to be PrizePicks. It is an over-under on fantasy points, and it is a very simple game to be playing if you want to indeed check it out. A lot of people, I saw about 20 people signed up yesterday. Shout out to all of you. PrizePicks is right now, they actually have all the lines up. So we got all the lines up based on this because I'm recording a little bit later on in the day. Early on so far on PrizePicks, you take the over-under on props for any sport you want. They have a shit ton of sports, over-under on player props. So usually they're not out by now. There's usually only 8 in the morning, so this is fantastic. So let me tell you where the best schmacks are going to be early on right now. And you can see some more later on. These will change. I'm telling you right now. So if you're watching this early in the day, go set up an account on PrizePicks. Use the link in the description below. Say, hey, Sal. We know Sal. When I say promo code, you type in Sal. S-A-L is a promo code, and that will give you a free money match up to $100. So if you put in $20, you get 20 back. You put in 100, whatever number in between those ranges, you get 100 back. PJ Washington, 28 fantasy points today. Give him the over. Every single site is disrespecting PJ Washington today. I'm giving PJ Washington 33 minutes of play. Maybe he'll be in this video. I have PJ Washington for 32.5 fantasy points today. Give him the over. It's about a 4.5 point swing for me. I have PJ Washington right now as a play on the day today that you should be sucking on up right now. The second one, and I think that this prop changes in a major way, is Montrezl Harrell under 22. Montrezl Harrell under 22 is probably the best play in the slate right now. Look, Anthony Davis is returning, going to play about 15 minutes, they say, if he plays today. I'm giving him that. Then they have so many other power forwards and small forwards and centers out there, right? They have Andre Drummond, who's going to take up the center spots. Marcus Gasol is questionable. He'll be playing some minutes if he indeed plays. They have Townhorn Tucker. They have Kyle Kuzma. They have Markieff Morris. They have so many bigs that there's not that much left for Montrezl Harrell. I'm only giving Harrell 16 minutes of play today and about 16 fantasy points now. So I have this at 16 fantasy points, a 6-point difference. Give me the under on Montrezl Harrell. Give me the over on PJ Washington. Those look like the two best options early on right now today. Go follow these. Odds are that they change later on in the day. So if you're tuning into this video in the afternoon, maybe by 2 or 3 or 4, and you're not yet all the way to 6 or 7 p.m., be sure to sign up down below. I'm telling you right now, these are going to be very, very important lines to take. They're not factoring in Anthony Davis being fully back yet at this 22 over under. Link in the description below. Use that code SalasGreens. Throw me off, and you'll get that free money match, and you can win some dollar bills, y'all prize picks. Thank you for being this presenting sponsor of these NBA shows while we wait for the NFL to come back and smack y'all real hard with that sport. The number 7 play in the day is Jeremy Grant. Look, Jeremy Grant came back. He was a very strong option for us. He was only $6,800. And now Jeremy Grant, who at $6,800 did us what we needed him to do. 33 fantasy points, that's fine. Now he comes up $100 in the price point. He didn't even get the full minutes, right? He plays 27 minutes. He loses out on some minutes because of some foul trouble. He picked up 4 personal fouls in Detroit's last game, which I believe was yesterday. Now they're on the second night of a back-to-back. Jeremy Grant in that game did play the final 12 minutes, though, so it wasn't anything major. But if we go to the rarely used but often helpful, no Sal on the screen. What does that say about me? You can see Jeremy Grant right here in the game yesterday. Started, he plays the first 12 minutes, but then right here, look at this. He picks up a personal foul, and he checks out, and he only plays in the second quarter 1 minute and 39 seconds. Now, that's not going to be the case. He'll normally play at least 5 minutes, so he probably loses out on like 4 minutes there. And then look at this. He picks up another personal foul, and he ends up checking out just playing 1 minute in the third quarter. So Jeremy Grant, in the whole total of the second and the third quarter, plays 2.5 minutes. This is it right here. This blue spot right here. This is Jeremy Grant's minutes on the bottom, and then this blue spot to start the third quarter. So Jeremy Grant, that is not going to continue. Dealt with an injury, came out, went back in, dealt with some foul trouble. This man who starts is not going to only play 2 to 3 minutes in the second and third quarter combined. Jeremy Grant probably missed out on somewhere around 5 or 6 minutes yesterday, which if that's the case, he would have played 33, 34 minutes. I'm giving Jeremy Grant 33 minutes to play today. I'm going to give him about 1.1 fantasy points per minute. Even in not playing the massive minutes that he got, he still shot 16 times in that game. Give me Jeremy Grant today as the number 7 play on the day for us. The number 6 play on the day is going to be Andre Drummond. Yeah, Anthony Davis is coming back, but he's a power forward. Andre Drummond is going to be slightly affected, of course, when he plays next to a high producer in Anthony Davis for those minutes, but I think that Andre Drummond is going to be playing probably the majority of his minutes. Let's say he plays 28 to 30 minutes a day. I have Andre Drummond at 28. He's probably going to be playing more than half of those, I would say, not with Anthony Davis next to him. And when Davis is next to him, I still think Drummond will be the dominant rebounder. I just think that's the way that Drummond plays this game. So maybe he's not going to average 1.4 fantasy points per minute but the entire game, but he will for part of the game. 15, 16 minutes of it, and then I'll average 1.3 throughout that. He's $7,300 today. I'm giving him 1.4 fantasy points per minute in 28 minutes of play. It gives him 37.89 fantasy points for me. As of the guys that we've talked about right now, Andre Drummond is my number 6 play in the slate. Looks like the best center option as it goes. A 107.5 team implied total. He's averaging right now, since he's been a Laker, over a 30% usage rate. That is absolutely fantastic. So get the schmacks in there with Mr. Andre Drummond. Now let's get to the top 5. Shout out Drake. Put that in quotes. Put that in quotes on your t-shirt. Top 5, Drake. I don't feel great about this guy. I don't even have 10 yeses on this slate. That's how this slate currently is looking for me. If I pull up the projections, the Patreon projections, which you can find down below over on where? Yeah, Patreon. I only have 6 yeses on this slate. So if I'm going to give you the top 10 plays, they're obviously not all yeses. And yeses just mean my priorities. You can see my entire player pool of what is right now 41 players linked down below on Patreon. But Lauri Markkanen is not one of those yeses. But Lauri Markkanen is indeed somebody that I'm looking at today. So if we want to pull up what happens on Lauri Markkanen right now, this is what's happening with the exact same sample that we looked at a little bit earlier for Chicago since the trade deadline, the last 5 weeks or so, when you're not seeing Zach LaVine on the court. Lauri Markkanen plays the third most minutes. So that's the biggest thing. He just gets a little bit more minutes because he's playing next to Nikola Vucevic. It's not going to look as great. He's playing next to more of Kobe White, who's not the same as Zach LaVine, but still a usage guy. And you're getting Markkanen to average about 0.82 fantasy points per minute during that time. He shot about 43 threes during that time, so you're getting a little bit of usage there. And he gets a 20% defensive rebounding rate, 18% usage. So what you're basically getting is just a cheap, not a standout player, a cheaper player who's getting a little bit of bumps to his minutes. You're not getting 18 to 20 minutes. You're now getting 22 to 24. And Markkanen for me today, I gave him 24 minutes of play. I have Markkanen for right around that 0.85 fantasy point per minute production rate. And it puts him right around 21 fantasy points for me as just a nice value in the 4K range for a slate that currently does not have a lot of standout value. So Lauri Markkanen is our number 5 play in the day. He is not a yes. He is not a priority for me. He just stands out relative to other 4K options. He is not the best 4K option. We're about to get to the 2 best 4K options on the slate. Spoiler alert above us. But right now I would prefer a guy like Lauri Markkanen to, say, a Jalen Brunson, who's a little bit more expensive, to a McCall Bridges. I think that Lauri Markkanen, I'll take the price savings there. The number 4 play in the slate is going to be one Tristan Thompson. There's still no Robert Williams, so Tristan Thompson's price point, it's just not high enough. 1.7x multiplier in SuperDraft, not as appealing over there because there's some other centers that just have a higher ceiling, but still fine. But at $4,800, Tristan Thompson, yeah, he looks good. And if we pull up the same sample of what happens when you take off Daniel Tyse, not on the team, you take off Robert Williams out today and Jaylen Brown, then you start to get a nice little look at what you can see from Tristan Thompson. He plays 180 minutes in that sample, which for him is a nice sample, right? That's about 7 games or so. And he's averaging basically a fantasy point per minute, 0.97 fantasy points per minute. He shot 1 3, didn't make it, so whatever that does for you. But he's averaging a nice fantasy point per minute rate. He's averaging close to a 30% defensive rebounding rate, 28.6, and you're basically getting secure minutes. So I have Tristan Thompson for 28 minutes of play today, and it only gets better as Jason Tatum is questionable, which would just spike up everybody on this entire team, but it only gets better for Tristan Thompson if indeed Jason Tatum was to miss. I have Thompson for 0.95 fantasy points per minute, which is actually projecting him below what you're seeing right here just slightly. I have him for 28 minutes of play and 25.53 fantasy points. There's a chance I'm actually low on Tristan Thompson today. So Thompson is our number 4 play in the slate. As we get inside the top 4 to the 3, DJ spin that number 3 play in the slate today, let me tell you about Patreon. It's linked down below. Real quick schmack for you right here. Patreon. We have projections, ranks, top plays, all the stuff that you're going to need to increase your odds of winning while reducing your research time, joining the community on Discord. It's popping off for a bunch of different sports from the NBA to the MLB, general chatter in there. MMA on Saturdays spikes up a little bit. The prize picks, Discord access is probably the biggest one that's popping off. So if you're a Patreon, you get access to all that. I think we have about 400 people that are active in the Patreon Discord right now, about 500 plus people on Patreon. So it's a nice community that we're building, very strong community. It's what I've been trying to do. Lineup optimizers, a ton of tools. If you have any questions, I mean, it's all listed out on Patreon. There's nice little tiers that break everything down. Any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me any way that you can contact me, just not in person. Don't try and murk me. If I'm walking and you see me in person by some account, don't jump on me and jump me in some corner and say, which Patreon tier should I take? Approach it a little bit better than that. But it's linked down below. Come join the community. What are you waiting for? Here's your nudge. If you want any dollar whiskeys following this content and you have the means to do so, here, give back to the community potentially, join it, and try and run that dollar whiskeys up as high as you can, while also having a good time with a good community, just getting the facts thrown your way. The number 3 play in the slate is somebody that we like on Prize Picks, the presenting sponsor. We've already mentioned him today. It's PJ Washington. PJ Washington continues to be disrespected. There's still a bunch of guys out here. PJ Washington is also leaking into a lot more center minutes. Cody Zeller's not playing as many minutes. Bismack Biyombo's barely in the rotations and sometimes not in the rotations. There's no Gordon Hayward. So who's taking over these center minutes? Well, it's increasingly PJ Washington. PJ Washington, if we take out the one game against Atlanta on April 11th, where he got banged up, you're seeing PJ Washington play 31, 34, and 35 minutes of play. You're seeing his shot attempts stabilized, 13, 17, and 18. PJ Washington right now, over these last 4 or 5 games for Charlotte, is the best player on this team. In those games, he scored 34, 36, 45, and 34 fantasy points, and they continue to disrespect him. They put his price point slightly up, but he should be about a $6,500 player right now. So at $5,900 for Chicago today, PJ Washington, if we start to look at what he does when there's guys like Gordon Hayward and LaMelo Ball off the court, he starts to average over a fantasy point per minute. And if you give him decent minutes, which I have him at 33 today, which based on his last 2 games is still going to be a minute or 2 under that, he looks like a strong option. PJ Washington for me, I have him projected for as it stands right now, 33 minutes at 1.04 fantasy points per minute and 32.5 fantasy points, making him our number 3 play in the slate, making him, because of the dual eligibility that you get, not just a center, but power forward eligibility, arguably the best play on the slate because of that flexibility there is PJ Washington. The number 2 play on the slate is another center, Mason Plumlee. Look, for whatever reason, I think people thought like Isaiah Stewart was just splitting time with Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee was hurt, and then that was proven when Mason Plumlee actually sat out some games. But when Mason Plumlee is in there and active, he plays his minutes, like he did last time out, which was literally, I believe, yesterday. He played 32 minutes and he scored 44 fantasy points. Now I don't expect him to go for 16 rebounds, and 7 assists was the big one. Like 16 rebounds is not really in his wheelhouse, but he can get you a 10, 11, 12 rebound game. The 7 assists is the outlier. Now Mason Plumlee is usually going to be getting you probably 3 or 4 assists at most. He even fouled out of that game, so he had 6 personal fouls. But Mason Plumlee at $4,900, the price point for whatever reason, like 2 weeks ago when he was actually doing the exact same thing, playing decent minutes, he was like $6,000, $5,700. So I have no idea why the price point has dropped by $1,000 or so. Gets the matchup against San Antonio today. Mason Plumlee a very strong play at $4,900. It's as simple as that. I'm giving him 1.1 fantasy points per minute today. I'm only giving him 28 minutes of play. We obviously saw yesterday he can play more than that. He's never going to be a guy that you rely on for a lot of shot attempts. You'll be happy if you get 8 shot attempts out of him, but you're hoping that you pick up those 10 rebounds, and the 8 shot attempts mixed with him getting to the free throw line 4 or 5 times can get you to the double-double. This cheap price point for me has Mason Plumlee projecting out for 29.08 fantasy points, and I'm telling you right now, I said there's not a lot of value on this slate. So when you're looking at guys like Mason Plumlee, it really does stand out how good of a value he is today, assuming that he does start on the second night of a back-to-back. There's only 2 guys that I have, or 3 guys that I have above a 5.5x value. And if you don't know what that means, it basically just means as very good values relative to this slate. That is PJ Washington, that is Mason Plumlee, and that'll be our number 1 play on the slate today. Again, I only have 6 guys who are yeses. You can check it on Patreon down below. I urge you to. We can talk about it more in the live stream later today as we get into the number 1 play on the slate today. So as we do, like, subscribe, do those things. 2 seconds of your time. time. And it literally will take you 30 seconds to pick up your cell phone. I know it's like your third arm out there. You go to the Sal Vetri Show on Apple, Spotify, wherever it is that you can leave a review, probably on Apple. You go there, you say 5 stars. Hey, I like the show. Or if you want to leave some more, you can, whatever it might be. It really helps boost up those podcast charts for your boy. Get entered into a chance to win $100 Rooskies. The number one play on the slate today. This man has been on this list a lot lately, and yesterday he ended up going out there and not playing well for you. He scored 13 fantasy points in 20 minutes, but we'll break down why that happened to an extent. I mean, partially a bad game by him, also partially not getting to play in the second half because of a blowout for his team. That number one play on the slate is going to be, as it stands right now, Mr. Daniel Tyse. So Daniel Tyse, yeah, he started yesterday, right? He's been starting at power forward. That's giving him a lot more security in his minutes. It's basically giving him the ability to play like 26 plus minutes a game at this point, if not 30 plus. But, and this is a big old booty, and hopefully this keeps people off of him because he's by far the best 3K option on the slate. I mean, he's my number one play right now. By far the best 3K option on the slate right now. You saw Daniel Tyse, and what he's been doing lately is playing bigger minutes. He's starting lately, so he got to start 2 games ago and play 29 minutes. He started again last game, and I expected him to probably play 28 plus minutes in that game. And we can go to the screen share twice in one day, Sal. Oh my God, you devil. You're getting a little bit scandalous out here. But you can see Daniel Tyse starts again, right? He comes in, he plays a 7-minute stint. He comes in the second quarter, picks up a couple of personal fouls, plays a 6-minute stint. So he plays about 13 minutes in the first half here. If he didn't pick up another personal foul, I think he would have played an additional minute, which probably would have put him at 14 minutes in the first half. Okay, whatever. That's good time, right? Comes in the third quarter. Now the game starts to blow out. He plays 6.5 minutes. So if he's going to play another 6.5 or 7-minute stint, he's getting about 27 minutes in this game, but he doesn't come back into the game at all. This black bar right here is him not playing. So this is his right here. He only ends up playing 19.8, we'll call it 20 minutes in the game because the game blows out. I mean, they end up losing this game by 16 points. So Daniel Tyse in that game was going to play 27 minutes. And I'll be honest with you, he played 20 minutes and only scored about 14 fantasy points. But if he plays 27 minutes, he can get you maybe to 20 fantasy points, which isn't terrible at a $3,800 price point yesterday by any means. And that's in a bad game. I mean, look at the game before that. You're probably going to be getting him scoring around 28 minutes, averaging about 0.9 fantasy points per minute. And that is what I'm looking for out of him today. If I look up at the projections on my third screen, the new laptop allows me to look this way as well. So you might be thinking I'm looking nowhere. No, I'm looking at the third screen. This way we're looking at, everything you're looking at on the screen right now. Daniel Tyse number one play. But I have Daniel Tyse for only 26 minutes today. I'm giving him 0.9 fantasy points per minute and 22.4 fantasy points. So if you get more minutes out of him, even better, right? So Daniel Tyse, number one play in the slate, and he really even jumps up a little bit higher because there's not a lot of other value. The only reason it's a little bit difficult to get to maybe Daniel Tyse compared to others is you have to make decisions at center today. I mean, we just told you that in my top 5 plays, I arguably have all 5 of them are center eligible, right? From Lauri Markkanen to PJ Washington, they have dual flexibility, but Tristan Thompson, Mason Plumlee, Daniel Tyse, only center eligible. We also have Drummond on this list, right? So there's a lot of big men today who are going to stand out as value, as is typical in the NBA. But that is the number one play in the slate, the numero uno play in the slate. So thank you for tuning in. Be sure to join the community on Patreon down below. We'll be live at 5 p.m. East Coast time today, breaking down the slate, taking your questions. It's questions and answered, so be sure to hit that subscribe and the notification bell. Manpreet will be live around noon today, breaking down the massive Masvidal 3-title fight. Usman 261 UFC. I cannot wait for this. I've been watching all the UFC embedded series. I'll probably go live on Saturday myself to kind of break down the strategy for lineups a little bit more. But be sure to check out that. That is going to be the best content that you'll find out there in terms of just breaking down the fights for the UFC from a DraftKings perspective. So that'll be live on this channel a little bit later on. And sign up and support the presenting sponsor of the show. I've already told you how high that we are today on, not the marijuana 420 has passed, but how high we are on today, Mr. PJ Washington. So we like the over on PJ Washington. We already kind of talked about it. The over on PJ Washington 28 looks like a slam dunk. I think that this probably goes up to 30, if not 32 later on in the day. And the under on Montrezl Harrell, they are not taking, look, we've done this before. We ended up turning into $1,500 myself and friends on the weekend, $200 myself into $1,000 when they messed up with the Utah guys. They're not taking into account properly, in my opinion, Anthony Davis being back, a 1.4 fantasy point per minute producer when LeBron's on the court. So Montrezl Harrell is going to play just backup center today at best. I have him for 16 minutes of play and 16 fantasy points, and they're giving him a 22 over-under. Take the under on Montrezl Harrell. Go get it right now. Use the code SAL, link down below in the description, and be sure to support that sponsor. And when you $1 Rooskies, use the code SAL, use the link, and you will get a nice little money match. So thank you for tuning in. Happy Earth Day to all you people out there today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you on the live stream later today.